Hello students, I am Dr. Amol Rahane welcomes you to the course Physics Principles and Applications for FYBSc Physics Paper 2 Semester 1. So we are studying 5th chapter Applications of Electromagnetic Waves. So in the previous lectures we have studied different applications of electromagnetic waves like microwave oven, radar, pyroelectric thermometer, X-ray radiography and CT scans. So in the today's lecture we are going to study the application of electromagnetic waves as solar cells. So we know the what are electromagnetic waves, right? So we know the electromagnetic waves are waves that are created as a result of vibrations between an electric field and a magnetic field, right? In other words, electromagnetic waves are composed of oscillating magnetic and electric fields, right? So this is a typical electromagnetic spectrum, right? So inside we have different waves, they are arranged with the increasing wavelength or increasing frequency, right? So we are concerned with the visible region. So visible region that falls between UV and IR radiation, right? So this small part of the radiation that is called as visible spectrum, it is because it is visible to our eyes, right? It is stand between 400 to 700 nanometers, right, in wavelength. So we are studying the application of these electromagnetic waves, that is solar cell. So let us study the principle of solar cell. So solar cell converts light energy into an electrical energy. A solar cell is basically a PN junction diode. Conversion of light energy in electrical energy is based on a phenomenon called as photovoltaic effect. The working of a solar cell solely depends upon its photovoltaic effect. Hence, a solar cell also known as photovoltaic cell. When semiconductor materials are exposed to light, then some of the photons of light ray are absorbed by the semiconductor crystals, which causes a significant number of free electrons in the crystal. This is the basic reason for producing electricity due to photovoltaic effect. Photovoltaic cell is the basic unit of the system where the photovoltaic effect is utilized to produce electricity from light energy. The name photovoltaic is because of their voltage producing capability. The semiconductor materials like arsenide, indium, cadmium, silicon, selenium and gallium are used for making the PV cells. Mostly silicon and selenium are used for making the cell. So let us study the construction of solar cell. So we have this solar cell, right? So we have a P type and N type material, and inside we have a PN junction, right? On the front, on the N type side, we have front metal electrode or metal fingers are placed where sunlight will incident on this material, right? And we have back metal conductor coating on the outside of this PN junction, right? So electric field will be measured at the we can say two electrodes, so N type and P type. So two electrodes are attached and we have applied load, right? So where we can measure the voltage produced, right? It is basically a junction diode, but constructionally it is little bit different from conventional PN junction diode. A very thin layer of a N-type semiconductor less than 1 micrometer thick is grown on a relatively thicker P-type semiconductor more than 100 micrometer thick. So that on the P-type semiconductor, a very thin layer of N-type semiconductor material is grown, right? We call this bottom layer as base of the cell. We provide few finer electrodes on the top of the N-type semiconductor layer. The electrodes do not obstruct light to reach the thin N layer, right? Just below the N-type layer there is a PN junction. The depletion region is created at the junction of these two layers due to immobile ions, right? So we know the just like inside a diode we have a depletion region We also provide a current collecting electrodes at the bottom of the p-type layer. This acts as their positive and negative output terminals, right? We encapsulate the entire assembly by thin glass to protect the solar cell from any mechanical shock, right? So this is particular construction. So let us now move to the working of solar cell, right? So this is a typical p-n junction of the solar cell, right? So this is p-type layer, which is large compared to the n-type layer. So n-type layer is very thin, and that is mounted over the p-type material. So this is p-n junction there. So depletion region will be there at the p-n junction, right? So when so we have the electrical contacts. So we have this one electrode here and another electrode is here, right? So electron hole. So when the photon will be incident on this material, so the photon will be absorbed in the depletion zone. So electron hole creation will be there inside this depletion zone. So these holes, they will be attracted towards the we can say the cathode, and electrons will be attracted towards the anode, right? So we will be having when it is switch on, there will be current flow or electron flow inside the this material, right? Inside the outer electrical circuit, right? So while sunlight fall on the cell, and when light reaches the p-n junction, the light photons can easily enter into the junction through very thin n-type layer. The light energy in the form of photons supplies sufficient energy to the junction to create a number of electron-hole pairs. The incident light breaks the thermal equilibrium condition of the junction. The free electrons in the depletion region can quickly come to the n-type side of the junction. Similarly, the holes in the depletion can quickly come to the p-type side of the junction. Once the newly created free electrons come to the n-type side, cannot further cross the junction because of barrier potential of the junction. When the light photon will be incident on the n-type material, that absorbed photon will pass to the depletion region where the electron hole pair will be created, right? So these electrons, they will be attracted towards the n-type side, and the photon holes, they will go to the p side of the junction, right? And there will be we can say a potential barrier will be produced at the junction, and therefore electrons, they cannot go on the p side directly, right? So these electrons, they will pass from the outer circuit, right? Similarly, the newly created holes, once come to the p-type side, cannot further cross the junction because of the same barrier potential of the junction. As the concentration of electrons become higher in one side, that is the n-type side of the junction, and concentration of holes become more in another side, that is the p-type side of the junction, the p-n junction will behave like a small battery cell, right? That means there will be more electrons will be produced, and they will be concentrated in the n side, right? And holes will be concentrated on p side. That means a voltage will set up which is known as photovoltage. In this way, a potential difference is established between two sides of the cell, and if these two sides are connected by an external load, current will start flowing from positive to negative terminal of the cell. This was basic working principle of solar cell, right? Right? What is the principle? Principle of solar cell, that means when the photons, they will be incident on this n-type material, they will go to this depletion region. On the inside the depletion region, the electron hole pair will be produced. The electrons, they will go to the n-type side, and holes will be go to the p-type side, and they will be collected, they will be assembled inside the this region, right? So electron will be, they will concentrated inside the n-type region, and holes will be concentrated in the p-type region. They cannot go from one side to another side because there will be barrier potential at the junction, right? When enough electrons and holes are be produced on the both sides, we can say this is this is just like a battery, right? When we apply the external load to this cell, then the current will be produced, right? So this is the flow of electrons, and current will be opposite direction, right? So current will be like this, so in the opposite to the direction of electrons. So when electrons, they will flow from on this side, the holes will flow from this side, right? That means the current will flow in the direction of holes, and that is opposite to the electron flow, right? So this is the working of solar cell. So what are the parameters important for the solar cell or photovoltaic cell? So these are some parameters that we'll see. So during choosing a particular solar cell for specific project, it is essential to know the parameters of a solar panel. These parameters tell us how efficiently a solar cell can convert the light to electricity. So let us study the first parameter, that is IV characteristics of solar cell. IV means current voltage characteristics. So this is typical IV characteristics. On one axis we have the current and another axis we have voltage, and the current voltage characteristics are plotted, right? So this is on this side we have the current, y axis we have current, and x axis we have voltage. So we can see here VOC and ISC is there, right? So the and this graph of current voltage curve is like this, that it will intersect the current axis at ISC, and it will intersect the voltage axis at VOC. So VOC means open circuit voltage. That means this is the maximum voltage that the solar cell provide when the terminals are not connected to any load, right? So when the terminals are not connected to any load, then we will get the open circuit voltage. That means the circuit will be open, right? There will be no load applied to the solar cell, and that corresponding voltage is called as VOC or open circuit voltage, right? So this is open circuit condition. Whereas the ISC means the current will be flow, that means maximum current will be flow when the two terminals they are short. When we will short the two terminals of the solar cell, then maximum current will be flowing, right? So that is called as ISC, that means short circuit current, the maximum current provided by the solar cell when the output connectors are shorted together, a short circuit condition, right? So in that case, the current, if we measure the current, that current is called as ISC or short circuit current, right? There is another point in this graph, and this point is called as maximum power point or PM or MPP. So this is called as maximum power point. That means this is related to the point where the maximum power supplied by the cell that is connected to the load, that is batteries or inverters, it is its maximum value. That means this maximum power is given by Im into Vm, where this Im and Vm are the values of current and voltage corresponding to the maximum power. That means the product of this Im into Vm will give us maximum power. That maximum power can be also be found by measuring the area bounded by this curve, right? So this particular square or rectangle we have plotted. So the area, if you measure the area, the maximum area gives us maximum power, right? So we can have plot for this. If we take this point, and if we have the rectangular like this, so we can measure the area of, bounded by this rectangle, and we can measure the particular power, right? Value for that particular Im and Vm values, but I and V values, but for the maximum value of this power we will get for Im and Vm, right? So that is called as maximum power. Im is the current and Vm is the voltage at maximum power point, is shown in the VI characteristics of the solar cell. The maximum power point of a solar cell is measured in watts, that means W, or peak watts, that means picowatts or peak watts, so WP, right? Another characteristic of solar cell is fill factor. The fill factor is the relationship between the maximum power that the solar cell can actually provide under normal operating conditions and the product of open circuit voltage times the short circuit current, right? So VOC into ISC. This fill factor value gives an idea of the quality of the cell, and the closer the fill factor is to 1, that is unity, the more power the cell can provide. That is, typical values are between 0.7 to 0.8, right? So fill factor of solar cell is defined as fill factor is equal to maximum power output upon ideal power, right? So maximum power output that we get PM, right? So maximum power output we get PM. So PM is the product of VM into IM, and ideal power means the product of VOC into ISC is called as VOC is the open circuit voltage and ISC is the short circuit current, that their product will give us the VOC into ISC. So we will get the fill factor of the solar cell, and typical value that falls in between 0.7 to 0.8, but if it is close to 1, that means the quality of the solar cell is better, where VOC is the open circuit and ISC is the short circuit current, that we know, right? Another factor in the solar cell is efficiency, right? The efficiency of a solar cell is the ratio between the maximum output power that the solar cell can produce compared to the amount of solar radiance hitting the cell. The efficiency of a typical solar cell is normally low at around 10 to 12% depending on the type of cell, whether it is monocrystalline, polycrystalline, amorphous or thin film being used. So efficiency, it is shown by neta, which is equal to P out upon P in. So we can write the above equation as P out is equal to Vm into Im, which is equal to fill factor into VOC into ISC, right? So this is output power, right? And therefore the efficiency of the solar cell is P out upon P in. So output power we can measure. So output power is equal to maximum power, right? So PM into IM, so which is equal to fill factor into VOC into ISC upon input power. So P in is the input power, that is depend on the radiation. So we have different types of solar cells. One is amorphous silicon solar cell or ASI. We have biohybrid solar cell, cadmium telluride solar cell, CDTE concentrated PV cells, copper indium gallium selenide solar cells, crystalline silicon solar cells, dye-synthesized solar cells, gallium arsenide germanium solar cells. We have hybrid solar cells, luminescent solar concentrated cells, monochromatic solar cells, multi-junction solar cells, nanocrystalline solar cells, organic solar cells, perovskite solar cells, photoelectrochemical solar cells, plasmonic solar cells, polycrystalline solar cells, quantum dot solar cells, solid state solar cells, thin film solar cells. So we have various types of these solar cells. So we will see some of the types. So let us study the first silicon solar cells. So majority of the solar cells on the market today are made up of some type of silicon. By some estimates, 90% of the solar cells are made of silicon. However, silicon can take many different forms. Variations are almost distinguished by the purity of the silicon. Purity is the sense in the way in which the silicon modules are aligned. The greater the purity of the silicon molecules, the more efficient the solar cell is at converting sunlight into electricity. The majority of silicon based solar cells on the market, above 95%, are comprised of crystalline silicon, making this the most common type of solar cell. There are two types of crystalline, that is monocrystalline and polycrystalline. Monocrystalline silicon solar cells, where also called as single crystalline cells, are easily recognizable by their coloring. Monocrystalline solar cells are the most efficient of all. Efficiencies have been documented at upwards of 20%. Monocrystalline solar cells are almost also the most space efficient, right? Another advantages of monocrystalline cells is that they also last the longest of all types. Many manufacturers offer warranties of up to 25 years on these types of PV systems. Monocrystalline cells are the most expensive of all solar cells. So from an investment standpoint, polycrystalline and thin film cells are often the preferred choice of consumers, right? Because of their high cost, the monocrystalline solar cells, they are less used. We use polycrystalline solar cells. So polycrystalline solar cells, also known as polysilicon or multi-silicon cells, were the first solar cells ever introduced to the industry in 1981. Polycrystalline cells do not go through the cutting process used for monocrystalline cells. Instead, the silicon is melted and poured into a square mold, hence the square shape of the polycrystalline. In this way, they are much more affordable since hardly any silicon is wasted during the manufacturing process, right? However, polycrystalline is less efficient than its monocrystalline right? Typically, polycrystalline solar PV systems operated at 13 to 16% efficiency. Again, this is due to the fact that the material has a lower purity. Due to this reality, polycrystalline is less space efficient as well. One other drawback of polycrystalline is that has a lower heat tolerance than monocrystalline, which means they don't perform as efficiently in high temperatures. Alright, let us move to another type, that is thin film solar cells. In the thin film solar cell, with growth rates of around 60% between 2002 to 2007. By 2011, the thin film solar cell industry represented approximately 5% of the sale of the markets. While many variations of thin film products exist, they typically achieve efficiencies of 7 to 13%. However, a lot of research and development is being put into this thin film. Thin film solar cells are characterized by the manner in which various types of semiconducting materials, including silicon in some cases, are layered on top of one another to create a series of thin films. The major drawback of thin film technologies is their mass production is much easier than crystalline based modules. So the cost of mass producing thin film solar cell is relatively cheap. The product itself is also flexible in nature, which is leading to many new applications of solar technologies scenarios where having some type of flexible material is advantageous. One major drawback is that thin film technologies require a lot of space. Thin film technology using various photovoltaic substances including amorphous silicon are being developed. So let us move to the amorphous silicon solar cells. So thin film solar cells made out of amorphous silicon are traditionally used for smaller scale applications, including things like pocket calculators, travel lights and camping gear used in remote locations. A new process called stacking that involves creating multiple layers of amorphous silicon cells have resulted in higher rates of efficiency up to 8% for these technologies. However, it's still fairly expensive. Then we have another solar cell, that is cadmium telluride or CDTE solar cell. It is the only of the thin film materials that have been cost competitive and with crystalline silicon models. In fact, in recent years, some cadmium models have surpassed them in terms of their cost effectiveness. Efficiency levels result in a range of 9 to 11%. Then we have the copper indium gallium selenide solar cells or copper CuInGaSc solar cells. They have demonstrated the most promise with respect to their efficiency levels that range from 10 to 12%, somewhat comparable to crystalline technologies. The technology is most used in larger or commercial applications. So we will see the applications of solar cells. So solar cells are used to convert light source from the sun into electrical energy. This is environment friendly and saves resources. Therefore, they are mounted on roofs of houses, industries, cost effective way to provide power to remote area. Solar cells are used in power farms to provide electricity to large areas. Solar cells used in vehicles like cars, buses, etc. helps to save non-renewable fuel. Solar power is used in space vehicles such as satellites and telescopes. So in summary, we have studied different applications of various types of electromagnetic waves. So we have studied the solar cell, their principle, construction and working of solar cells. We have also studied the IV characteristics of solar cells, fill factor and efficiency. We have also studied different types of solar cells and their uses. Right, in this way our fifth chapter is finished. So thank you.